Hey everybody, so we are going to go over task-based language instruction. Can't really say that fast because it's a lot to say in one sentence, but that's what we are going to be going over today. Reading this, I found that, well, to me, that this is more towards older students in the classroom, not so much like with our kinder and first grade. I feel like if we were to do task-based instruction with our kindergarten and first graders, they may get a little lost, overwhelmed. This is very like based on like communication with each other and really having those social skills and learning them and getting more confident. I just don't really see that happening for kindergarten and first grade. It's just a little too much, right? I see it in second grade, I see it in third grade. I can see that how kids can get more interactive with each other and collaborating a lot more than I would in a guided teaching classroom, which would be our kinder and first grade kiddos. And I don't think that this would be a good thing for them to do, but you could always try it. During TBL, which is our task-based learning instruction, TBL students are involved in solving a task. So they're given a task, and this task isn't a hands-on activity. It's not something that they're like doing at a table, like with math manipulatives or writing. I mean, they could be writing, they could be taking notes with each other, but it's not something so much in that kind of a task. What this is basically is that you're giving students something to solve, maybe looking at an article, reading it together, or if they've already read it throughout the whole class, but the kids want to go into a very small group. From what I read, it looks like that this is something that's going to be done in pairs, especially if we're doing task-based learning with our ESL students. So this is going to be something that's going to be done in pairs, small group, 3 to 4. You really want them to communicate together. You don't really want them to get off topic. I feel like with our little learners that a lot of them, if there's too many people in a group, it's very easy for them to get off topic. I mean, it's easy for a couple, like a partner, to get off topics. You really want to be moving around, monitoring what your students are saying, what they're doing, helping them if they do need help. So this is very much so just them talking, doing these tasks. So it's very much just communicating and talking and debating depending on what the topic is. So you as a teacher are basically picking these topics. You could pick a topic out of a book. You could also do like the game Clue. You can write out different things of like what the characters were doing, what's the missing information. I see that in this is probably something that would be really fun for them to do if there's missing information in a story, a mystery. So that's something for the kids to be like really engaged in. It's exciting. They want to figure out what's going on, but during that time they don't even notice that they're actually talking and working the situations out. What's happening in the story? What's going on with these characters? So they're communicating, they're solving these problems, and they're doing it on their own. And you're just there to support if they need support, especially if they need to go back to their L1 language, which is their first language, to help them and support them in that way. And then always make sure that you have your dictionary set up for them so that if they do need help with the word, and they're older kids, like our 4th and 5th grade kids, well, we can help them look for that word and really say, well, what does this mean? And if that's a word that you don't know, but you really want to start getting used to it, well, let's write it down, right? We can always start doing that as well. This is something very different from just like sitting down, looking at sentences on the board, memorizing vocabulary. This makes it a lot more fun for the kids, and they are more interested in what they are doing, and it's going to help them really grasp onto that communication and having more freedom with their language and learning. Disadvantage with this is that a lot of teachers try this out and it kind of goes flat the first time, or it didn't really go so well, the kids kind of like were not into it, so then they never try it ever again. There's lots of ways to avoid that situation if you really want to try to do task-based instruction in your classroom. This calls for a specific kind of task. Like I said, it's meaningful communication. It's something that's going to prompt their communication. So if you give them something that's boring, or they just don't understand like what they're reading, what they're supposed to be talking about, yeah, you know, you are going to get bored. The kids are going to get bored and they're not going to want to do it. And it's just like the next time that you have this activity in your classroom, well, they're going to remember that last time, like, this didn't go very well and I don't like it. So that's where it's going to fall flat for you, and you don't really want that. So you want to make sure that when you set something for your kids, it's really going to be prompting them to communicate with each other. So it's very important. If you want to have them do a presentation, I would give them 3 different ways on to present. They can present it to you verbally, so if you want to do small groups and everybody, you're just basically checking in. This isn't like a big project where you're standing up in the front of a classroom and you're just talking to everybody. Like, that's a little too much sometimes, especially for ESL kids. It can be really, really overwhelming. I mean, I get overwhelmed talking in front of a classroom. Don't do that. Like, I would say that like this is something of you checking in, checking on their comprehension skills. Did they understand what was going on? Did they solve the problem that they were looking for, if it was a mystery, if it was missing information, or did they make up another story? You know, what did they do? Like, what came out of their conversation with each other? And that's the more important thing that we're looking for, and that they understood what was going on. A short question, something that's open-ended question. You don't want to get any yes or no's. Those closed questions are kind of hard and you don't really know if the kid got it or not. So open-ended questions for our small students are going to be great to see if they've actually understood what was going on in the classroom. Like I said before, with this kind of task-based, you can do this with planning a complex journey. So if you want the kids to come up with some sort of journey together, or if they're good, you know, and that can be any journey. It doesn't have to be anything wild. It could be made up, like a dream. It could be, what would you do if y'all went outside into the playground? You know, describe it, come up with some story together. What's gonna happen? What's the end result? Like, what's gonna happen when you come back? So give them some direction on like what you want them to do. Just don't throw something at them like, come up with this journey. It's not gonna work, right? The kids don't know. The kids don't know that like, oh, I have to do all these steps, and like you're not going to get anywhere with them. So you really want to make sure that you give specific instructions to what type of journey, how you want them. Set up some small sentences on the board and say, what happens when you go outside? What happened then? What did your friend say? So give them some prompts to like go off of, so that they can go from there, and that's going to be really helpful. Discussing missing information, like I said, this can be an article that you already gave them. You probably could have taken out some of that information by like coloring it in, and then when you scan it again, it's missing, right? But you know what the information is, and the students have to figure out, well, what goes here? What would be missing from this story? Some of them make it up, some of them get it. You know, it doesn't matter if it's made up or not, but it's what they are learning together, and they're communicating. That's what's always really cool. Or you can make up your own clue game for all of them to play if you have a lot of time to do that. You can have them do an interactive story. They can write a little short story together. If you do this like around Halloween time, you can do a scary story, Christmas story, anything. I mean, you can base any story on any kind of theme. It can be something for them to do together, but they are conversating and talking and getting the story, the beginning, the middle, and the end, right? So you want to also teach them at the same time that this is what happens in a story. The characters, your plot, your scene, what's your summary. So it's really, really English based. They're still communicating together. You're not really telling them what to write. You're just helping them and scaffolding them during the whole process if they need help. So in task-based, there's 3 different things to remember. So your pre-task is going to be basically your engagement. How are you going to engage these students into wanting to do task-based instruction? You're not going to tell the kids, we're going to do task-based instruction today. No, we're just going to go ahead and jump in and see if it works, right? I mean, that's usually what we always do. You really want to make sure, just like with any other lesson, that you get your kids excited. Are they excited to read this article? Are they excited to talk about this article? You can see it in their face if they're like, oh, like, I like this. Like, you know, there's some kids that may be a little like, I don't know what that is, but you have to explain it. So you have to make sure that you have everything ready. You have to make sure that you have, if it's some vocabulary that they may not know, go over that at first. And just like any other lesson, you just want to make sure that everybody is on the same page, ready to go when they break out into their groups and talking on whatever it is. During the task, so again, you want to make sure you have either pairs or small groups, 3 to 4, depending on how big your class is. And you as a teacher are basically just walking around from there, giving everybody help if they need help, and you're not doing any guided teaching at this point. You are just observing and you're walking around and you're helping them if they need help. That's it. This is totally all kid collaboration. Want to make sure that they're staying on their task. Review, like I said, you can do little presentations for them. So if they want to come up to you one by one, if you want to break out and go into maybe silent reading or literary stations, during this time you can have those groups come up to you and y'all can talk about what they did, how did they solve it, did they come up with a story, what was the story, or if they did come up with a story and write it down, and that's when you can go ahead and start reading all of their stories and you can see what they did and ask questions if you need to from there. But you're basically just going over doing a review. You can ask the kids if they actually liked the activity. Did they like working together? Do they want to do more of this type of learning? Basically where you can ask your kids if they liked it or not. I mean, it's really important that we know what our kids like in the classroom, because we don't want to do something again and they're just like, ugh, like I don't really want to do this. You know what I mean? That's when you're going to start losing your kids, and we do not want that. You don't want to lose your kids in the classroom. Advantages of this is student interaction, of course. I also said before that maybe this isn't a good thing to do with kinder and first grade. So it looks like something that you can start in second grade, but very small. And then of course our third, fourth, and fifth graders, they're having more interaction. They're getting to know each other. They can start doing more collaborative and more engaging activities together like this, where it's more talk-based. They're not really doing a full hands-on activity worksheet kind of thing. So this is more of like discussions, and I see more of our older kids doing and fulfilling those opportunities. Then of course, improving our communication skills. That's what this is going to do. Their confidence is definitely going to improve because they're communicating the whole time with each other, and then also they are able to communicate with you. It's going to be more motivational. So if they are really understanding, they're really getting it, you know, they're vibing in the classroom with each other. It is really motivating when you feel good about what you've done, right, with your peers, and you're like, oh, I really got this, like this was fun. So it's motivating and going to help them want to learn. Students are also going to understand the language. Just going to get deeper into that language that they're learning. They're L2, if they're ESL, be getting that extra communication skill working so that they're able to get ready and communicate anywhere in real life. And this is going to help our ESLs with real life situations. When they go out with their parents, they're not going to be scared to like, well, I can't say that because I don't know how. This is going to be very motivational for them to start speaking out in public right away. Disadvantages, like I said before, you have to really be careful when you're planning this. You want to make sure that your plan is a good plan. And like I said before, this is probably going to take longer to plan than any of your other lessons. It's very an authentic kind of planning. So you want to make sure that you have everything done before you actually get into the classroom and set up your students for those tasks. This is probably going to be time consuming, especially if you are going to be planning this outside of the classroom. Like if you're planning this at home to do, you know, for the next week, well, this is probably going to be time consuming, but it's probably going to be worth the planning when you see your students having a good time. Teachers feel like it's too much scaffolding sometimes, depending on the stages that their students are in the classroom. Like I said before, I do not see this with the younger students. I see it more with our older students, but also our older students are in different stages as well. But I feel like they can get more into a groove faster than our little ones can. Students can also avoid using their targeted language, which would be English if they're in Spanish. And then they can just go back to, they get frustrated, they don't want to do it, they're bored. So they'll end up going back to their L1 and not really doing any of the task at all and not communicating. And that's not really what we want to do in the classroom. So we want to make sure that we keep it very, very, very basic and helpful for them too. Also, for our teachers, we also want to make sure that if we're doing something like this in the classroom, task-based learning, make sure that you have really, really good classroom management. I feel like that this will be something really easy for those of you who do have your classroom like this, not too rough, but the kids know what they're doing, they know their roles, and they know that what they're supposed to be doing and what to do and what not to do. Another thing is we want to make sure, again, over and over, that our students are interested in what they're doing, especially in the classroom. This goes for any lesson. We don't want our kids to be bored at all. Make sure that your kids are really engaged and excited about what they are learning. If your students are bored, they are definitely going to just veer off from the situation, and it's not going to be very helpful. And this is when the task-based instruction will go downhill, when you have those kids that are just bored and just don't want to do it. Remember, there's pre-task, engage your students. There's the task where you are walking around, observing your kids, helping them in what they are doing. This is them more communicating with each other. And then of course our review, which is going to be a presentation set for you, not really necessarily a huge presentation for the kiddos, but it's something small to where you are able to see that they are communicate with each other and that they did comprehend what was going on. So this is more of a peer review all together for your kids. All right, guys, I hope you try this out in your class. Remember that you can do this with a clue type of game, missing information. You can have kids ask questions to each other if you want to do this in the beginning of the school year, where it's kind of like more getting into the community of your school. Have the kids ask each other questions. If they want to learn, you can already have these questions set up, and they're getting into these questions where it's more of a discussion instead of like a yes or no answer. Like, do you like the color green? Yeah, no. Give them some questions that are going to be very well discussed questions, and then writing stories. So I hope you guys like this. I hope you guys try it out, and remember to have those classroom management skills with your kiddos. Thanks, bye. Get off. Monday, get off from there.